The night speaks in whispers, if you know how to listen. Not in the hurried chatter of wind across leaves, nor the familiar rustle of forest life. No, this voice is older, heavier, a low murmur beneath the surface of the world, like breath through the cracks of a sealed tomb, like the memory of fire in dying embers. It tells of her. Long before Olympus rose into the sky and the golden gods carved their stories into stone, there was a different kind of divinity, one untouched by the vanity of thunderbolts or the arrogance of sunlit thrones. She came not from conquest, but from stillness, from the places where things end and begin, and sometimes neither. She has no need for temples. She is the temple. The crossroads are hers, those desolate places where three paths meet and none lead where you expect. Her presence seeps into the thresholds of homes, into doorways and shadows, into the pause between breath and word. When the moon is high and the world falls into silver and black, you may pass her shrine and not even know it. But she will know you. She always knows. Hecate. Her name moves like smoke, soft at first, then sudden, choking. To speak it aloud is to light a torch against the dark, and to draw whatever listens toward you. Legends say she was born of Nyx, night herself, though no man saw it. Others claim she sprang from the sea foam like Aphrodite, but with salt tears instead of laughter. And some whisper she simply was, always there in the stillness, waiting with eyes open in the deep. They called her a witch, a goddess, a phantom. All are true, and none are enough. The first hunters offered her flesh under the moon, leaving tokens of entrails at the forked paths in the woods, praying not for blessings, but for safe passage, not for mercy, but for silence. They knew that to gain her favor meant losing something in return, perhaps a secret, perhaps a soul. And yet they returned. Even the priests of the sun spoke her name with careful reverence, candles flickering on their altars when night grew too long. Because she was not evil, she was truth. The kind of truth most weren't brave enough to face. The air around her is thick, not with heat, but with knowing, as if the night itself leans closer when she passes. Wolves quiet, owls blink slower. Even the stars seem to dim slightly, as though humbled by her arrival. There is no thunder when she comes, only stillness. Imagine this. A forest where time forgets to move. Ancient oaks with roots like coiled serpents. Mist curling low across the ground, carrying the scent of damp earth, of decay, of blooming night flowers whose petals only open when no one is watching. The sky above, ink dark, with a moon so full it feels like an eye. Then, torches. 3 flames flickering with a life of their own. No hand holds them. They hover at the center of a clearing where 3 roads meet. one leading deeper into the trees, one winding toward distant ruins, and the third vanishing into shadow. The ground here is bare, the silence deafening. This is her place, the crossroads, not merely physical, but spiritual, emotional, the place between choice and consequence, between one life and the next, and she stands at its center, unseen and yet unmistakable. Her form shifts with the torchlight. In one moment, a young woman with eyes like moonlit rivers, skin glowing like pearl. In the next, a veiled matron, heavy with sorrow and secrets. Then again, a bent crone whose gaze could unmake you. She is all of them, and none. You do not see Hecate. You feel her in the tightening of your chest, in the cold that creeps along your spine, in the ache in your limbs that says you've wandered too far, that you're somewhere you shouldn't be. And yet, you do not run. There is a lure in her stillness, a sensuality that is not sexual, but elemental, like fire that does not burn, but pulls you closer. She wears the night like a lover's robe, wrapping herself in shadows, in suggestion, in the unsaid. Her voice, when it comes, is never loud. It doesn't need to be. Do you know where you are? That question has no answer, not really, because she isn't asking for direction. She's asking if you understand the weight of being here, at a place where the veil is thinnest, where truth leaks through like blood from a wound. Most turn away, but some don't. Some step forward, lost souls, broken hearts, dreamers with ink on their fingers and desperation in their breath. They seek her, not because they believe she will save them, but because they hope she will tell them what the cost will be. And she always does. In dreams she appears as a pale flame, a whisper at your bedside, a hand that lingers too long in the dark. In waking life she is a sudden cold draught, a flickering lamp, a raven perched where none should be. Her signs are subtle but undeniable, always just enough to make you wonder if you imagined her. But you didn't. She waits in all those places others avoid, abandoned graveyards, stairways to nowhere, the hush just before a storm. Her world is not one of light and certainty, but of questions, of choices, and choice is the cruelest magic. She is the keeper of keys. To what? She does not say, but she carries them on a chain of bones, and each one is different, ornate, worn, heavy. One opens your past, one your fear, one your desire, one your undoing. The question is not whether she will offer you a key. The question is, will you take it? Because there is always a price. In every myth there is a cost, a bargain made in desperation, a truth uncovered too late. but no story tells what happens after the wish is granted, after the lover is awakened, after the secret is known. And that is her domain. Not the beginning, not the end, but the middle. The space between, the pause before you speak, the second before you kiss, the silence after the scream. She is not a goddess of answers. She is the question itself. And so I ask you now, what is the cost of power kept in the dark, of longing that never sees the sun, of touching something ancient and cold and endlessly patient? Would you dare knock on her door? Would you cross that final threshold? Would you ask her name and listen for the silence that follows? Careful now. She is listening too.
Her name has been whispered for centuries, but rarely with understanding. Hecate, a goddess of thresholds, guardian of the unseen, sovereign of silence. To most, she is a silhouette at the edge of a dream, a shadow moving through fog, a presence that arrives not with fanfare, but with the stilling of birdsong and the sudden hush in your chest. But she is more than myth. She is many. And tonight, she waits. The clearing is quiet, the torches lit, and 3 paths yawn before her, not for her to walk, but to test those who arrive. She stands between them like a secret waiting to be told. Her form shifts with the rhythm of the flames, never quite the same from one moment to the next. As maiden, she is wild-eyed and ageless, her dark hair unbound, flowing like night wind across her shoulders. Her skin glows with moonlight, untouched by sorrow. In this form, she is pure potential, the allure of what could be, of paths unchosen. She smiles rarely, but when she does, the forest itself leans closer. As mother, she is robed and regal, her body curved with the weight of lifetimes. There is strength in her stance, a silent gravity that pulls the truth from your lips before you mean to speak. Her hands are gentle, but they know how to hold both life and death with equal reverence. She does not flinch at tears. She cups them like rain. As crone, she is sharp and still as stone. Her eyes are clouded, but all-seeing. Her breath is cold, and her voice, when she uses it, can cut through delusion like a blade through silk. But beneath the lines of time and loss, there is something else, a sorrow too old for words, and a softness that only those who listen carefully will ever notice. Each face is hers, all at once, constantly shifting, as if time dares not anchor her. She is not what mortals fear, she is what they need when fear becomes unbearable. And tonight, someone needs her. He stumbles through the forest, though to call him lost would be imprecise. He is not searching for direction, not really. He is searching for permission to fall apart, to surrender, to let go of the weight he has carried through too many sleepless nights. His name is Theron, though it has lost meaning to him lately. Once, it meant hunter, strong, sure-footed, full of fire. Now it is a name spoken like a question. He wears it uneasily, like a shirt gone too tight across the chest. Grief clings to him like damp clothing. It shows in the way he walks, shoulders curled inward, as if trying to hold something broken in place. His hands tremble, not from cold, but from memory, the kind that lingers in the ribs, like the last breath of someone you love too much.
He is not the kind who prays, but he has whispered her name once in the dark, with the taste of ash on his tongue and tears pressed into his pillow. He didn't expect an answer, and yet here he is, drawn by something unseen, a thread he cannot name pulling him forward through the dark. And she feels him before she sees him. Hecate does not need sight. She feels emotion like vibrations in the air. His sorrow reaches her first, sharp, desperate. Then his guilt, heavier, coiled like a serpent around his ribs, and beneath it all, longing, a need so deep it hums like a forgotten song. She appears before him not as one face, but as all three, flickering between forms like candlelight catching on different facets of a jewel. His eyes widen, not in fear, but in recognition, as if some part of him has always known her. He falls to his knees, but not in worship. It is exhaustion, relief, the kind that cracks open your chest and leaves you vulnerable. He does not speak. She does not ask. They know. Her eyes trace the pain in him like a map, noticing but not judging. She takes a step closer, and the ground seems to still beneath her bare feet. The air between them thickens, not with threat, but with anticipation. She speaks softly. You've come to choose. His voice is rough. I don't know what I'm choosing. You do, she replies, but you fear the answer. There is no condemnation in her tone, only understanding, the kind that wraps around him like warm silk, both comforting and impossible to escape. He raises his eyes. Will it hurt? Only if you lie to yourself. Her lips don't move, but he hears her as clearly as his own heartbeat. And then, silence once more. But not empty silence, charged. The air is heavy with something unsaid, electric. A thread stretches between them, not physical, but emotional. He feels drawn to her, not by desire of the body, but by the ache of being seen, truly seen.
No one has looked at him like this before.
not through eyes that want, but eyes that know. She sees the child he was, the man he tried to become, the scars he earned for love, the ruin he fears he's become. And she does not flinch. Instead, she steps closer, only inches now. He can smell her, not perfume, but the earthy scent of old wood, cold stone, and distant fires. Time, mystery, night itself. He should speak, he should ask something, anything, but he doesn't need to, because she raises her hand and slowly, deliberately touches her fingers to his chest, just over his heart. A breath catches in his throat. Not because it is erotic, though the moment carries its own kind of intimacy. No, it is something deeper, a recognition. Her touch is not one of possession or promise. It is a key sliding into a lock he did not know he carried. Her voice now inside him. You are not broken. You are between. And he shudders. The words are simple, but they break something open inside him, not pain, but a kind of release. Tears well unbidden, not weak tears, honest ones. And she remains, unmoving, watching. For a long moment they stand like that, man and goddess, mortal and myth, sorrow and silence facing each other at the edge of decision. No vows are exchanged, no spells cast, but the bond is made, not in flesh, but in recognition, in the sacred ache that lives in those who've lost too much and dared to hope anyway. He is hers now, not in servitude, but in understanding, a soul who has stood at the crossroads and stayed long enough to see. And she is changed too. Though her face reveals nothing, something inside her shifts. The crone softens, the mother mourns, the maiden dreams. Because for all her wisdom, even Hecate is not immune to the gravity of longing, and in Theron's grief she sees the echo of her own. That eternal ache of watching, waiting, never being chosen except in desperation. Tonight, that ache lessens just a little.
The torches still burn at the crossroads, casting long, trembling shadows that dance across the trees like spirits summoned by breath alone. The forest around them is still, unnaturally so. Even the wind holds its breath. Between the flames, between the paths, between the eyes of a goddess and the heart of a man, the air quivers with something unspoken. Theron stands at the edge of her domain, not quite in, not quite out. Behind him is the world he came from, heavy with sorrow, filled with names he no longer speaks and memories that cling like thorns. Ahead lies something he cannot name, a realm where truth comes uncloaked and desire sheds its disguise. He hesitates, and she watches. Hecate stands just beyond the torchlight, her form layered in shadow and fire. Tonight she wears the face of the mother, but her eyes flicker with the wildness of the maiden and the wisdom of the crone. A storm held in stillness, a flame that does not burn unless invited. "You cannot remain here, not forever," she says. Theron's voice is rough, low. "What happens if I enter? You change." He swallows. The word coils inside him. She steps closer, her bare feet silent on the dirt. The scent of smoke and something older, lavender, myrrh, blood, surrounds her like a veil. He can see now the keys at her waist, the curve of her collarbone, the moonlight threading silver into the strands of her dark hair. She is both beauty and warning. "And if I turn back?" he asks. Her gaze deepens. "Then you will live, but only half alive, with questions gnawing holes through your sleep." She does not coax, she does not plead. She waits. Theron's breath trembles as he takes a step forward, not a leap, but the first trembling surrender, a yielding, the kind that does not shout, but hums low in the belly. As he crosses the boundary of firelight, something shifts, the torches hiss, and the air grows thick, dense with meaning. Behind him, the paths fade. Before him, the woods open like a dream.
Hecate leads him in silence. No command, no hand held. She simply moves, and he follows. The deeper they go, the more the forest forgets its name. Trees lean close like listening lovers, and the mist curls along the ground like sighs released in sleep. Strange lights pulse in the distance, not stars, but memories, trapped in branches and waiting to be touched. They arrive at a circle of stones. In its center stands a single altar, low and ancient, carved with symbols that breathe beneath the moss. Around it, candles flicker in spirals, each flame a heartbeat. "Here," she says, "you will ask." Theron frowns. "Ask what?" "What you truly seek." He hesitates. The silence that follows is long, painful. Then, "I want to stop hurting." Her eyes soften. "That is not a question." "I want peace." Still not a question. He clenches his fists. "Then what do you want me to say?" She moves closer now, barely a breath between them. Her voice lowers, intimate, unyielding. "I want you to ask what you fear most." The words settle into him like heat in the bones. He does not speak. He steps forward instead, placing his palms flat on the altar. It is warm, pulsing faintly. Beneath his skin, the stone feels alive, not just sacred, but sentient, like it remembers the touch of every soul who ever begged. He closes his eyes and asks, What if I was never meant to heal? The air around him stirs, the candles flare, and Hecate inhales slow and deep. In that moment she feels it, the raw, tender wound of him, the shame buried beneath his grief, the old ache of abandonment, the hollow where love once lived. It calls to her, not in pity, she is no savior, but in recognition. She too knows what it is to ache. She too has longed for something she could not name, and she feels the pull now stronger than before. Not lust, not comfort, something more dangerous, attachment. The desire to possess not the body, but the soul. But she is a goddess of the boundary. She cannot cross it without cost. Still, she lingers. She reaches forward, her fingers brushing the edge of his shoulder, just enough to let him feel her warmth, just enough to not be enough.
He exhales sharply. I feel like I'm falling, he says. You are. I don't know if I want to be caught. I won't catch you. He turns slowly, facing her. But you'll be there when I land. And she, for the first time in what might be centuries, smiles. Not with her lips, with her presence. The entire forest feels it. The candles sway. The air thickens. The moment aches. Come, she says. They move together now, as if tethered, into a deeper part of the wood where a stone circle awaits. This one not for asking, but for becoming. Hecate begins the rite, not with incantations, but with silence. She circles him slowly, trailing her fingers along the ground, her touch stirring symbols into the soil. The wind responds, and the trees hum low, like a distant chant rising from beneath the earth. Her body sways, fluid, her hips moving with the rhythm of something older than language. Theron watches, mesmerized. Every curve of her is a question, every breath a test. Then she stands before him again, holding a small black chalice. This holds your answer, she says. But once you drink, you cannot go back. What's inside? Truth and memory, and the pieces of yourself you left behind in places you swore you'd never return to. He reaches for it, then pauses. Her fingers wrap around his, just for a moment, guiding the cup to his lips. They do not kiss, but it feels like they did. The taste is bitter, then sweet, then like nothing at all. He gasps, and the world shifts. Visions slam into him, not of futures or fate, but of himself, as a boy staring into a night sky, as a man holding the hand of someone already fading, as a soul adrift in grief, and now here. And through it all, her voice, "You are not what happened to you." He falls to his knees, and she kneels beside him. They do not touch, but their breathing sinks. Their pain weaves together, stitched by silence and dark and desire. Not physical desire, not yet, but something more intimate. The desire to be known, to be seen by someone who does not turn away. And here in the belly of the wood, beneath candles and stars, in the arms of a goddess who will never beg to be loved, Theron is seen. And Hecate, though she does not show it, is shaken, because she was never meant to feel this much. She was never meant to want, and yet she does.
The candle flames have stilled. No wind dares move them now. The forest holds its breath as if something sacred has arrived, not from above, but from within. The trees no longer whisper, the shadows no longer stir. Even the stars seem hesitant, peering through the heavy mist as though they too are not worthy to witness what is about to unfold. Theron kneels in the circle, breathless, the bitter aftertaste of truth still clinging to his tongue. His hands tremble, not from fear, but from release, as if his body is finally starting to understand that it no longer needs to carry everything. Hecate stands before him, still, silent. The torches paint her in molten gold and obsidian, flickering across her skin, illuminating the tension she keeps locked inside. Her lips are parted slightly. Her chest rises and falls with a slow, controlled rhythm. Her face, usually unreadable, now holds something else. A fracture, a crack in the divine mask, a tremble beneath the eternal. She is feeling too much, and she knows it. She has guided souls through despair, ushered them to their deaths and rebirths. She has lit torches for the lost and held the hands of those ready to pass beyond. But this mortal, he unsettles her, because he doesn't beg. He sees her, and for once she doesn't want to vanish into mist. She kneels in front of him. Their eyes meet, hers full of centuries, his full of ache. Neither speaks. They no longer need words. The tension has changed, no longer sharp, no longer distant. It pulses between them, slow and warm, like the beat of something ancient awakening in the blood. He lifts a hand, hesitant. She doesn't move. His fingers hover just above her face, the hollow of her cheek, the edge of her jaw. He doesn't touch her yet. He waits, trembling on the edge.
"May I?" he whispers. It is not a question of permission. It is a plea for reverence. She closes her eyes and leans into his hand, just slightly, and he touches her, gently, reverently, as if she might vanish if he breathes too hard. His palm curves around her face, and for a moment she forgets she is a goddess. She is only herself,
the woman behind the night, the ache behind the myth. And then, with no flourish or ceremony, she rests her forehead against his. Their breaths mingle, their chests rise and fall in sync. Between them, there is no space left. Time halts. Only feeling exists now, dense, slow, radiant. She speaks into the stillness, a whisper so soft it could be mistaken for wind. I've never let anyone see me this way. He doesn't answer. He cannot. His throat is too tight. His eyes burn with tears that feel older than his own grief. She continues, her voice a tremble of fire. I was made to watch, to wait, to guide, never to be touched, never to be chosen. He moves closer, not out of desire, but out of need. Their lips barely brush, not yet a kiss, not yet a fall, just a shiver, a breath's weight of distance between them, trembling on the verge of everything. I would choose you, he says, voice cracking, even if it ruined me. And that breaks her.
The strength in her spine falters. The weight of eternity caves into longing. Her hands, once folded in composure, reach out and clutch the fabric of his shirt. She presses into him as if anchoring herself against a storm that exists entirely inside her. He holds her, arms wrapping around her, not as a man claiming a goddess, but as a soul offering sanctuary to something sacred and lost. And she lets him. Their bodies do not move in passion, but in surrender. There is no need to devour, no hunger to consume. Instead, they exist in stillness, hearts pressed together, bare skin against bare skin, with only breath and trembling to mark the distance between divine and mortal. Around them, the world begins to echo. Visions spiral in the air, flickers of fire, the shimmer of blood rituals, a woman standing beneath 3 moons, a child sobbing on a stone altar, a pair of lovers wrapped in shadow and gold. Time loops and coils, revealing fragments of her memory, her pain. And now he sees her, not the goddess, but the girl born in the dark, the maiden who cried beneath the stars, abandoned by the gods who feared her, the woman who walked between worlds, never belonging to one or the other, the soul who lit the way for others, but never found someone willing to wait for her. And he weeps for her, not loudly, not with drama, just a silent, unstoppable flow of grief, not his, but theirs. He cradles her as her body shudders once, not in fear, but in the weight of finally being held. The forest sings now, low and mournful, a hum of leaves, of soil, of old bones. The candlelight bends inward, wrapping around them like silk. Above, the moon pulses 3 times. Hecate lifts her head and kisses him, not with fire, with truth.
It is not a kiss of seduction, but of revelation, a merging of stories, of loneliness answered, of power offered not as gift, but as intimacy. Their lips meet softly, parting just enough to taste sorrow, to taste hope. And in that kiss, he sees the night through her eyes. He sees the paths of all those who have come before, the souls who have whispered her name, the hands she has guided into death and into birth. He sees her alone, again and again, choosing isolation over compromise, truth over touch. And now he is the first who did not ask for power, only presence. She pulls away, just barely. They rest their foreheads together again, breath ragged, chests heaving with emotion too large to name. And for a moment, they are simply human. Both of them. Not God, not supplicant. Just two souls at a threshold, holding on. "You were never meant to stay," she whispers. He nods, eyes shining. "But I was meant to find you." And in that moment, they both understand. This was never about salvation. It was about recognition. Two shadows, once strangers, finding their mirror. She rises, slowly, regal again, but softer now, changed. He remains on his knees, not in worship, but in reverence. Not for what she is, but for who she chose to be. The forest exhales, the candles dim, and the spell, not cast by ritual but by feeling, lingers like the final note of a hymn.
The forest feels different now. It breathes slower, deeper, as if the land itself has exhaled after centuries of stillness. The air no longer trembles with anticipation, but with the gentle ache of something that has come and gone. The trees, ancient and mute, stand as witnesses to what transpired. A quiet merging, a ripple through time, a kiss that neither claimed nor released. Theron sits on the mossy ground, his palms resting flat against the earth. He is still, no longer in awe, no longer trembling, just present and changed. He does not need a mirror to know it. The shift is not in his face, but in his being. The way his breath moves through his body, the way silence no longer feels empty but full. Where once there had been a chasm between pain and meaning, between longing and memory, now there is a thread. It hums with her name. He touches his chest just above his heart and feels it. A warmth, faint but constant. A mark not left by blade or burn, but by intimacy. Not a wound, but a reminder. Hecate's presence still lingers, not as a figure before him, but as a current beneath his skin. Yet she is gone, not vanished, not fled, simply receded, like the moon behind a veil of clouds. Her essence no longer visible, but woven into the very fabric of the woods, of the crossroads, of him. He senses her departure in the quiet hush of the leaves, in the soft extinguishing of the final torch. The flames do not die violently. They curl inward, surrendering with grace, returning to shadow
without protest. Like her. He looks up at the sky. The stars return, faint, distant, indifferent. The moon has shifted, leaning toward its descent. Dawn will come soon, but he is not who he was when night began. Theron rises.
There is no ceremony to it, no grand realization, just the motion of someone who has come undone and begun to rebuild from within. His joints ache as if he's carried something heavy, not with weight, but with truth. A burden that no longer crushes, but defines. The altar behind him is cold now, its glow faded. The vision is over, the ritual complete. He steps from the stone circle, and the forest parts for him. Branches move aside with silent reverence, and the mist that once pressed against him now coils gently at his feet, like a memory reluctant to fade. He reaches the edge of the grove, the place where paths meet, and there, beneath the last flickering lantern, something waits. A single object, a key. Small, worn, blackened with age, but unmistakably hers. The shape is unusual, curved like a question, delicate at first glance, but heavy in the hand. He picks it up. It pulses faintly in his palm. A gift? No, a bond. He closes his fingers around it. From this moment forward, he will walk with a quiet knowing, not just that he met her, but that he was seen by her. Not just that he was changed, but that she too allowed herself to shift. Because though she cloaks herself again in silence, something within her has been stirred. Even as she disappears back into her realm, the liminal places, the spaces between, she carries the taste of him still on her lips, not his kiss, but his grief, his honesty, his reverence. And for Hecate, that is more intimate than touch. She moves now through the folds of shadow, alone again, but not untouched. The torches of her realm are dimmed, her pace slow, not weary, thoughtful. She does not cry, she has not wept in centuries, but there is a weight in her steps that was not there before.
She touches the place on her chest where his words landed. I would choose you, even if it ruined me. A mortal's vow. Foolish. Beautiful. She closes her eyes. The power she offered him was not in spells or vision, not in mastery of death or command over spirits. It was in presence, in the rawness of being held, even for a moment, in the fullness of another's attention. And in that, she has given more than she ever intended. Not just to him, to herself, because now she remembers what it feels like to ache. Not from solitude, she has always embraced that. No, this ache is different. Like a whisper just behind the ribs, a longing for what cannot be, not because it is forbidden, but because it is fleeting. She touched a soul, and let it touch her in return, and it will not happen again. She knows this. Even now, the veil thickens around her once more. Her body reforms into myth, the face of the crone solidifying, the shadows clinging to her like old lovers. The keys at her waist rattle softly, reasserting their weight. Her gaze becomes unreadable.
But somewhere in her, deep, hidden, sacred, the maiden stirs and smiles. Back at the crossroads, Theron lingers. He could go back to the world he left, return to the roads, the cities, the faces that have not changed, but he will not be the same man among them. The key will hang around his neck, or rest beneath his shirt, or hide in a pouch he wears close. He will never speak of her, but he will carry her, in how he listens to silence, in how he kneels when grief overwhelms, in how he touches others not to fix, but to see. This is the price of sacred knowing, the beautiful ache of having glimpsed something eternal and walking away with the echo pressed to your soul. He walks now, not hurriedly, not lost. The trees thin, the path hardens beneath his boots. The night begins to loosen its grip. But the air clings to him. He breathes it in, and hears her voice just once more, soft, distant within him. You are between no longer. You are. And he smiles. Not because he is whole, but because he is aware. And that is enough.
The crossroads remain. Long after the torches have gone cold, long after the whispers fade into leaves and night insects, the paths still meet beneath the naked moon. No footsteps press the earth now, no mortal breath breaks the hush, but the place is not empty. Somewhere between root and sky, something breathes. It is not Hecate in form, not the towering, triple-faced goddess crowned with serpents and shadow. No, this presence is subtler now, a trace, a perfume left in stillness, a hum beneath the world. A memory dressed in power. And in that lingering stillness, something stirs, not quite sound, not quite thought. A voice, or maybe a wind. It cannot be named, it should not be. Yet it speaks, not with words, but through them. They rise not to explain, but to echo what was, what is, what aches to be. The cost of power kept in the dark is to know yourself too deeply. The voice does not ask, it states, and in that simple revelation lies the final truth. Because Hecate is not a goddess who bestows answers, only keys. She does not soften the path, nor shield the seeker from what must be felt. She opens, she reveals, she waits at the places where choice sharpens into fate. She does not command, she watches.
She feels, though none would dare to imagine it. When Theron crossed her threshold, he believed he sought wisdom, maybe love, maybe escape. But what he received was illumination, painful, seductive, irreversible. The kind of knowing that strips a man of his illusions, that leaves him raw and radiant, walking back into the world marked by the divine and devoured by understanding. The kind of knowing that does not fade, even when the face of the goddess is lost to shadow. The forest is quiet now. Somewhere, far from the sacred grove, Theron walks among the living. He touches no flame, utters no spell, but every glance, every silence, every breath is changed. He carries the cost of his desire, not as regret, but as intimacy. He has touched something eternal, and eternity, once felt, never fully releases its grip. Perhaps others see it in his eyes, that flicker of absence, that glint of ache. Perhaps they mistake it for sorrow, but it is not sorrow. It is depth, a haunted gratitude, a devotion unspoken. He never says her name aloud. It would not suit the air of the world he returned to. Her name is not meant to be spoken in daylight. It is meant to be felt in twilight, whispered to the bones when sleep will not come, traced across the skin in candlelight alone. And what of Hecate? She remains, not in place, but in presence. She walks through thresholds no eye can catch, between dreams and deathbeds, in the pause before decision, in the flickering of a soul uncertain. Her torches burn unseen at the edge of perception, twin flames of possibility and surrender. Sometimes, when the night is quiet enough, the wind carries her scent, wild thyme, ash, myrrh, and the salt of old tears, and with it the echo of her eternal truth. To know is to love, and to love is to suffer. But to choose is to live. It is why she stands at crossroads, not to block the way, nor guide like a mother with a gentle hand. She is not comfort, she is confrontation of the deepest kind. She holds up the mirror, not to vanity, but to essence, and those who come to her must choose to look and stay for a time, long enough to see themselves, long enough to see her, and then they must leave.
All mortals must, even those who plead to remain, even those who kneel with trembling lips and say, "I would stay if you let me." She hears them. She does not forget. But she lets them go, because it is in the leaving that the transformation blooms. In the place where their bodies never met, where no kiss was given, where no vow was spoken aloud, there, in the quiet space between almost
and never a love eternal was formed, not the love of possession, but the love of recognition. A soul saw a goddess let herself be seen. And both carry that scar, beautiful, eternal, unseen by all but the stars. There are whispers now, old ones, new ones, the kind that flutter between worlds. They say Hecate waits still, in 1,000 mirrors, in 1,000,000 corners of the soul. In the cracked voice of a dying man, in the first scream of a child, in the hand that hesitates before knocking, in the silence between two lovers afraid to speak. She waits. And those who truly seek her, not in power, not in spells, but in longing, they will find her, not as a reward, as a reflection. The moon has dipped low now, the paths grow cold, yet still they wait, the 3 ways, the space between. Theron may never return to that grove. His feet may never find those woods again, but he is always near her now.
Every time he pauses at a choice, every time he feels desire rise without form, every time he aches deeply and without language, she is there. Not to comfort, to witness, to remind him that some encounters do not offer closure, only a key. The crossroads are quiet, but not empty. Never empty. They are full with what was, with what could have been, with what still pulses beneath the skin of myth. And somewhere, in a place no one sees, Hecate lifts her torch. Just once. A flicker. A farewell. Or perhaps an invitation. The wind carries it, barely audible, threading through dream and dusk. Come again, if you dare. But know this, you will never leave untouched. And then silence. Heavy. Holy. A hush deeper than death. Wider than time, a final offering, a final truth. Hecate is not gone. She is between, waiting, watching, ever the keeper of doors, never fully closed.